In this video we're going to be taking a look at a brand new product from FlightSim Builder. It's a steam gauges panel and it's not a 6-pack, it's a 9-pack. Welcome everybody to the Simhanger, my name's Mark and let's get started. This new panel can be used as standalone or as part of a cockpit build, whatever is your preference, and they boast its plug and play. Let's put that to the test, start FlightSim Builder launcher, and your panels are there. The Microsoft Flight Simulator starts. No fuss, no bother, no configuration. This unit comes complete with its own built-in monitor, so it can display the gauges, and the panel comes with an appropriate array of knobs and dials. Currently only one profile is available, a simple single, ideal for a Cessna 172. Under development is a high-performance single, a twin, and a turboprop. It's Windows only at the moment. But of course, if you wanted to, you could expand the option and range available via third-party apps such as Air Manager, which would also provide Mac compatibility, but at default you don't need any of that. It's designed to be standalone. We're in the cockpit of the Cessna 172, and the panel syncs automatically to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let's do a quick side-by-side comparison. Got our airspeed indicator, our horizon, and of course our altitude. We also have the turn coordinator here, our directional and heading indicator, as well as a vertical speed indicator. The panel supports up to 2 VORs, which is what we'll find in the Cessna 172 Skyhawk, for example, and of course you've got your RPM gauge as well. The steam panel gauge sports a suitable array of knobs and dials for the appropriate instruments as you would expect, and all are fully functional. All of this is configured external to Microsoft Flight Simulator, so if you go to the Control Options menu, although the product is shown, no configurations are evident, although you can identify various button presses and dial turns. It's a pleasure not to have to configure everything. We spend enough of our lives doing that anyway. Let me just switch to live weather here, and we can check the barometer. I know this airport is just a tad below sea level. We're now on live weather, so we can adjust the barometer accordingly. FlightSim Builder launcher now comes with a boost mode, following a recent update, and the latency, well, there just isn't any. As you physically adjust the panel, the response in Sim is immediate, which to be fair is exactly what you'd expect anyway. You can get a better feel for the responsiveness of the unit. Let's select this gauge here, and what you're doing on the panel is reflected directly in the Sim. Now just adjusting the heading, and what's nice, you don't find that suddenly the heading jumps forward 20 or 30 degrees. It is responsive enough when you turn the heading so you can effect changes quickly. Engines are currently at idle. Let's push that throttle forward a little bit and increase the RPM. And again, this is another good test in terms of latency. I gotta say, I'm happy with the results overall. So far so good. The steam gauges panel from FlightSim Builder seems to be doing exactly what it says on the tin. Let's now turn to arguably a more important point. Why would you want this, and what sort of simmer is it aimed at? Of course, something like this could be incorporated into a full cockpit build, but whilst I chat, I'll just show a number of different setups. Its size makes it very versatile. This product is aimed not just at the enthusiast, but for those simmers looking for a more direct and physical interaction with their cockpit. To a large degree, it disposes of the need of the mouse, particularly if used in conjunction with something like the FlightSim Builder GNS 530, as I have here. It's also aimed at those who want it for more practical reasons such as flight training or cockpit familiarization. And immersion is not really the key here, although it does heighten that. The focus is on realism, the need to lean forward and turn that dial, and so on. It creates a very different type of simming experience. Suddenly you become more concerned and more focused on your instruments, just as you would if you were flying a real aircraft. And of course, for something like IFR, well, it's just perfect. But as mentioned earlier, it is proportionally an expensive item, currently available from FlightSim Builder for $480, so it's definitely a considered purchase, but one with an intrinsic value in terms of ease of use as well as functionality. This is not for everyone. This is a professional piece of equipment aimed at those looking for this type of product. We'll also test this unit once we're up in the air, but first of all, let's have a look at what you get. The panel itself is a separate monitor, so you need a HDMI cable. And the unit itself is HDMI as well. Get a USB cable USB-B to standard USB-A port, as well as a power cable. My unit's an early unit. Appropriate plugs will be supplied depending on where you are in the world. The unit itself is made out of a hardened plastic, with the fascia having a slightly rubberized feel, which is very nice. If you're familiar with FlightSim Builder products in the past, this one's no exception, and all connections fit to the rear of the unit. The unit doesn't support a standard VESA mounting, unfortunately, but a separate metal stand is available, compatible with Honeycomb and Logitech products. By that I mean you can mount and screw it into the top of the units. Some of the knobs also have push-button actions, but it's not configured for that by default, and they feature a nice amount of detail, and all have a nice haptic feedback when the dials are rotated. Size-wise, it's exactly the same as their G1000 unit. If you'd like to know more about their products, in particular the GNS 530 and 430 and the G1000, check out my product reviews link in the notes below. The metal stand I referred to is exactly the same one as used for the G1000 unit. It's an additional purchase, with the base of the stand having screw holes to accommodate fastening it to the Honeycomb, Alpha and Bravo and so on. It's a snug fit held at the front by a bezel, and corner clips are provided to fasten it to the metal stand using a simple screw and Allen key which is supplied. This makes attaching and removing it from the metal stand fairly quick and easy. The metal stands themselves are actually quite heavy. Turning to the display itself, it's fairly high resolution, probably more than it needs to be at 1024 by 768. But FlightSim Builder has done this deliberately, I think, so that it can show the smallest detail. And the benefits of this are likely to become more evident once we start looking at turboprop gauges and that type of thing, which often have a lot more information. To demonstrate the accuracy of some of the other gauges within the panel, I'm going to show a few excerpts from a short flight I did from Rotterdam, departing runway 24. We're going to head to the Rotterdam VOR, then head due north, and pick up the ILS approach runway 06 at Schiphol, and we'll see how it handles an ILS. We can see the speed increasing there, 40 knots, 50 knots, 60 knots, and we're ready to go. And up we go. We can see altimeter starting to increase there. We're going to climb to an altitude of 2,000 feet, and that's going to be our platform altitude for our planned ILS approach into runway 06. Now VOR 1 here, that is tuned into 110.4, which is the VOR for Rotterdam, so we're going to turn around and head back to the airport so we can just confirm that's from we want to. I'm expecting something in the region of about 60 thereabouts. You can see how responsive it is. Right, there's 60, so we want a heading of about 55 degrees. So we can dial that in. So we're almost going to turn right round. Just come back a little bit on the throttle. By the time we get there, it's probably going to be about 60 degrees to head to the Rotterdam VOR. And once we overhead the Rotterdam VOR, we're going to turn and we're going to be heading directly about north, about 5 degrees or so. Let's just correct this so we can see what we want. That's about 60. We're not bad. We're pretty much heading directly now. Let's just bring the RPM down a little bit. 2,400. We've just finished our climb. We're at 2,000 feet now. And as we can see here, we're heading directly to the Rotterdam VOR. Now, VOR2 is tuned into 108.4, and that is Schiphol. So once again, let's see if we can pick it up. There we can see Rotterdam directly below us. We can now change our heading. Obviously we are on the autopilot, and I'm going to just dial in initially about 5 degrees. There we go. We're more or less directly over the VOR. You saw it run across there. Just having a quick look at Navigraph, we can see exactly where we are. We're just continuing along this route here, and we're going to pick up the ILS approach for runway 06 into Schiphol. Here we can just do a quick comparison to what the sim instruments are saying and what the panel's reading, and everything seems fairly well aligned, all looking good there. And we'd expect to see the vertical or glide slope indicator here start to drop. It's starting to move down very slowly now, and once it gets into the center, then we will start our descent. So we can come back just a tad in terms of the throttle, because the aircraft will tend to gain speed as we start the descent. But what it has done made me very aware of the instrumentation that's in front of me. I'm paying far more attention to it than perhaps what I would do in the sim, to be honest, and it's a more realistic experience. We can see runway 06 dead ahead. And we're going to be starting our descent now. And here we go. That's Schiphol dead ahead of us, all looking good. Not far to go now. We're on the glide slope. Vertical alignment is fine, so once again, time to just start slowing down a little bit. As we head towards our final touchdown, it's an appropriate moment to talk about my overall impressions. From a quality and functionality point of view, well, I think that the steam gauges panel from FlightSim Builder meets expectations. This product, in my mind, is aimed at two different market sectors. There's those undergoing perhaps PPL training, something of that nature, and those simmers at enthusiast level that are looking for an addition to their cockpit or a more physical interaction in terms of the cockpit itself. If you're looking for that sort of thing, well, the steam gauges delivers. Now, there are unquestionably cheaper ways to achieve the same thing, utilizing a monitor and air manager, creating panels and configuring and so on. But again, this product is aimed at those that don't want the fuss and bother. They want something they can plug in and away they go. Once again, if you fall into that category, this product's worth a look. This is a brand new product on the market, and the software is still under development, with additional profiles and usability to be added. When I use this with my GNS 530 or G1000 unit, well, the whole cockpit comes alive, and adds another dimension to the simulation experience. Is it for you? Well, only you can decide. But as always, thank you very much for joining me. Stay well, look after yourselves, see you all again very soon, and bye for now.